The price of beef, one of the reasons it's going up is because of droughts, and another thing is that there is tariffs on Brazil, right? So Brazil. All right, we get a lot of beef from there.
One sirloin steak, one potato, and at today's prices, just one.
Is there a limit? Is there an upper limit for you of what you're willing to pay?
Well, I'm sure there probably is, but you haven't found it yet. I haven't found it, but I'd like to see it back down.
The cost of a pound of ground beef is closing in on $6, a record high, up nearly 50% from 5 years ago.
We are very, very conscious of how high the prices are in the meat case.
Stephen Kirkland has been trying to absorb some of the price increases at his 2 stores near Fort Worth, Texas. But a year ago, he could buy cattle for about $1,500 each.
Those 800-pound steers this week costing almost $2,400 a piece. Just
for one steer.
$2,400 for one steer.
Raising those steers also comes at a higher cost now, with prices up for feed, land, and financing. That's contributed to U.S. cattle herds falling to their lowest numbers in more than 70 years.
We've had a lot of drought the past couple of years, and so it's been harder and harder to keep enough grass to feed the cows.
What's up, America? The price of beef has hit record levels. Yes, that's right. The price of beef in the United States has unexpectedly gone up to almost $6 a pound for just ground beef, the highest ever. So people are starting to complain that the price of beef is unattainable here in the United States. Now, this is happening for a couple of reasons. One, a great deal of meat packing plants across America have closed. 2, most farmers have smaller amounts of cattle than they used to. There's less than 28 million head of cattle in America now, down about 20%. And farmers are saying drought as well. Now, a lot of companies that buy this beef, like McDonald's and Burger King and shit like that, are wanting lower costs, of course. But since they're not getting that, they're passing that cost on to you, the consumer. And apparently there is some evidence where larger farms colluded together to artificially raise the price of beef to sell to these large corporations. Now, that made a major lawsuit, and they went to court. They had to pay tens of millions of dollars in fines, but publicly they admit no wrongdoing. Oh, and other giant corporations like Walmart and Costco are getting into the supply chain. They have their own cattle ranches and meat processing and packing facilities. Of course, they would never start the price out low and incrementally raise it over years to get more profit, would they? So the price of beef in the United States is at record levels. Fuck that shit.
We're going to be paying a little bit more out of our wallets, but especially for beef right now with this price hitting an all-time high, and it's forcing a lot of local meat markets here in Stockton to just try and break even. The reason for this spike, officials say, is due to supply being short and demand for American beef remaining ever high. Droughts on the western United States mean less grass, less feed for beef, and less to go around. Cámbaro Meat Market has been in the same place in Stockton for 20 years. Owned by Francisco Ortega, he says this year, however, has been the most difficult.
We're selling about half of what we used to sell in the past. We need to up our prices because they up the price for us.
And demand for beef is always high at his store.
If they buy 50 to 60 pounds, we give them the same price we get from the supplier. We only get about 10%. It's not a lot, but we need to work.
And lately, supply has been harder to find. He supplies not only his customers, but also taco stands and trucks that roam all over Stockton.
About $4 a taco for 50.
Cristina Salinas has also seen the rising taco prices. It's forced her, as a mother of 2, to find cheaper alternatives.
I'm making tacos at home.
That's what you gotta do.
Making chicken tacos. It makes you appreciate it even more. When you do get to eat tacos and stuff and go to the taco trucks.
But I think this one in particular, is being driven by demand and supply.
Dr. Sanjay Varshini with Sacramento State says the record high price isn't surprising. He says finding those alternatives like Salinas could bring demand down and therefore prices, but in the meantime, it could sear your next grocery list.
It just throws a bigger wrench into people's ability to simply survive and put food on the table for their family.
Let's go meat shopping. Go. 84. Is that half? I don't mind half. I love oxtail. They don't have a smaller one. Guys, so I went meat shopping. I wanted to get turkey flats. If you've seen my video, guys, I only eat turkey flats. I don't like the full turkey. Then I wanted to get some goat meat and then oxtail. I got 10 pounds of turkey. Time to cut it. I found this carton of chicken. Like, first time seeing a carton of chicken, it was like $20. A full carton of chicken. Like the leg quarters. If you're probably doing like a party or something, you can get it. I'm giving Niger a carton of chicken. Yeah. So I'm done, and I just grabbed some extras. I grabbed pineapples and I grabbed plantains. This was what I used to make the food in the last video. I paid and then I headed home, guys. If you're in South Miami, this is like a perfect spot to get your meat. Yeah, this is what the goat meat looks like. 10 pounds of goat meat, and this is what the turkey looks like. I packed them up in Ziplocs and then I made the meal I wanted to make with some of the goat meat, and that's it, guys.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Joy Report, where we get an outsider's view with an insider's clarity. Meat lovers across America are in for a rude awakening at the grocery store. From ground beef to chicken breast, prices are skyrocketing, and the reasons go far beyond basic inflation. This isn't just an economic issue. It's a self-inflicted wound caused by a mix of tariffs and aggressive immigration policies that have backfired in the worst way. What once seemed like a tough on trade and tough on border strategies are now hitting ordinary Americans where it hurts, their wallets. Let's watch a few more videos and I'll come back with my final commentary. As always, all credit goes to the creators of these videos.
Let me show you how you can get cheap lean ground beef for basically the same price that you paid before everything started getting expensive. What I have right here is from Costco, I don't know what they call them, beef chubs. This comes out to $4.89 a pound. Butcher told me this is between no less than like 90-10, 95-5. Anyways, it's very lean ground beef. Right now at Walmart for 90-10, it's about $8 a pound. This will typically last me and my husband about 3 weeks. This was $49.44, but again, $4.89 a pound. Then you're just gonna grab you a basic food scale. This is just an Amazon one. Works pretty well for me. Next, get you a vacuum sealer. This one was given to me, but I looked on Amazon and you can get it for anywhere from like 60 bucks to 50 bucks. And with your vacuum sealer bags, usually the vacuum sealer will come with bags. You're just gonna label. So I labeled it ground beef, 1 pound, 5% lean. And then you put the date on there that you froze it. I just take some plastic wrap, turn on my scale, lay the plastic wrap down over the scale. I just take one of these knives and you are just going to cut. Use gloves if you want to. I don't have any. I just make sure I wash my hands often. And just take it out of the plastic wrapping that it's in and put it on your scale. You can take meat off as you need to, where it needs to be, around a pound. It doesn't have to be perfect either. Okay, so I got it exactly 1 pound. 1 pound. Then take that bag that you just labeled, put that meat in there. Best way to freeze this, when you're thawing it later, like when you're gonna use it the next day to cook with, flatten it so it thaws quicker. Once you're done flattening, it'll look something like this. Then you're just gonna take it on your vacuum sealer, put it on the open part right here, close it. Like I said, this one was given to me and it's not the fanciest, but it does the job. Now you've got yourself a perfectly sealed 1 pound bag of lean ground beef for $4.89 rather than $8 a pound. You're gonna repeat the process until you have like 10 of these. Boom, you've got 10 pounds of 1 pound packages of lean ground beef, and I only paid $50 for it all. Divided by 3, since we eat a lot of ground beef, since my husband does not really like chicken. I know, he's weird. It would come out to about $17 every week for 3 weeks. So pretty good, especially during this time when ground beef is insanely expensive. I don't care who you are, don't argue with me, you know it's getting expensive.
It all starts with the tariffs. The Trump administration just slapped a 50% tariff on Brazil, and that has largely contributed to the prices of meat surging. The ripple effects have been brutal. Much of the meat industry relies on imported feed, machinery, and packaging materials, and when tariffs went up, so did the cost of doing business. Farmers and meat processors found themselves paying more for basic inputs, squeezing already thin profit margins. Instead of boosting domestic production, the tariffs made things harder for American producers, who are suddenly dealing with higher expenses and unstable supply chains. Also, immigration crackdowns have greatly choked the labor force. Meatpacking plants across the country, especially in the Midwest and South, rely heavily on immigrant labor to operate. These are difficult, often dangerous jobs that many native-born Americans simply won't do. But with intensified deportations, workplace raids, and a growing climate of fear, thousands of workers disappeared from the industry seemingly overnight. Plants were left understaffed, lines slowed down, and the entire system buckled under pressure. In some areas, meatpacking plants have had to shut down or scale back operations because they simply didn't have enough workers. That led to processing delays, supply shortages, and ultimately higher prices. Fewer workers means less meat is hitting the shelves, and what little did had to be sold at a premium to cover the increased costs. And guess who's footing the bill? Everyday consumers. The same families who are told that cracking down on immigration and taking a hard line on trade will protect American jobs are now spending double or triple on their grocery bills. It's the classic FAFO moment. Mess around with systems you don't understand and suffer the consequences. The impact is hitting low and middle-income households the hardest. For many families, meat is a staple of their weekly meals. But now, they're being forced to cut back or find cheaper alternatives, sometimes sacrificing nutritional quality. And for small businesses, from diners to food trucks to local restaurants, the cost of staying afloat is rising. When the price of beef or chicken doubles, it doesn't just affect what's on the plate. It affects wages, jobs, and local economies. What's more frustrating is that this crisis was avoidable. People said for years that the meat industry was heavily dependent on both immigrant labor and global supply chains. But those warnings were brushed aside. Bring jobs back sounds good on a campaign sign, but in practice, it meant dismantling the very system that kept food affordable and accessible. Now, politicians are scrambling for answers while consumers are left wondering how something as basic as buying meat became a luxury. In many ways, this is a perfect example of how policy decisions made on the top trickle down into real-life consequences for everyday people. It's easy to point fingers at inflation or corporate greed, but the root of the problem lies in deliberate choices. Tariffs were imposed without a long-term strategy. Immigration enforcement wrapped up without considering the industries that will collapse without that labor. And now, meat prices are just the latest sign that the system is out of balance. And while consumers struggle, large meat corporations are also facing backlash. Some have tried to automate more of their operations, but even that comes at a cost. Expensive tech investment that don't solve the core problem of labor shortages. There's also a racial and cultural undercurrent to all this. Immigrant workers, many of them Latino, have long kept the meat industry alive in the shadows. They worked the lines, did the dirty jobs, and made sure food kept flowing. But rather than being recognized or supported, they were targeted and pushed out. Now that the system is struggling without them, there's a slow, painful realization setting in. America needs immigrant labor more than it wants to admit. So here we are. Tariffs meant to protect U.S. industries have ended up making them more fragile. Immigration policies meant to put Americans first have led to empty shelves and higher prices. And the people who cheered these policies on, often rural voters and working-class families, are the ones suffering the most. In the end, this isn't just about meat. It's about understanding how deeply connected our systems are and how breaking one piece can unravel the entire structure. From the farm to the processing plant to the grocery store, every step depends on people, policies, and planning. And when those are driven by ideology instead of insight, the consequences can be devastating. So what do you all think? Are you paying more for meat now than you did a year ago? And should the US admit its dependence on immigrant labor to keep prices low? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I would love to keep this discussion going. Otherwise, that's it from me. I also have a FAFO playlist, and if you enjoy such kind of content, please click up here and enjoy. Also, consider subscribing, liking and sharing because it helps me grow my channel and helps YouTube recommend this video to a wider audience. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Until the next time, the Joy Report out.